At the very end of the Eagles-Packers game, Jordan Love's left knee appeared to pop after he took this hit at the very end of the game. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at what exactly I think happened on this play to the Packers' star quarterback. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and the goal in this channel is to teach you about the medical side of the sports world. So let's take a closer look here at Jordan Love's knee injury. Now, this is important to think about the knee, but also I want to warn you that we could be seeing reports of an ankle injury after the dust kind of all settles and there's been some time for things to develop, because this mechanism is something that we will commonly see cause both an ankle injury and knee injury. But the big thing that everybody is of course seeing here, and I want to focus on in part of this video, is this pop, right? Because we all see or hear anything that pops on TV. We think about things like ACLs, we think about ligaments, and here you can certainly see something that shifts, some sort of pop right here in this position. There to there, something pops. Now, whether that's a ligament, etc., we'll talk through that. But I want you to look further down at Love's ankle, because this position of his ankle, where the foot is externally rotated as the Philadelphia player is kind of falling and landing on him, is also going to cause a potential high ankle injury. So here's the position of concern. Number one, if we focus on the position of the foot, we're going to see that Love's foot is externally rotated. So that means that the foot is pointed out this direction relative to the position of his knee and his thigh pointing forward. So as we continue to roll this clip forward here, what we'll see is that foot gets trapped, the knee's forward, so the ankle is up in dorsiflexion. So then as the player falls into him, you see that forced external rotation, dorsiflexion, along with that knee pop. This position right here is going to stress that high ankle sprain ligament down in the ankle, as well as stress some of the ligaments around the knee, specifically the MCL, but also when we see a shift like this, what do we worry about with the ACL? I will say right off the bat, before we get to our anatomy tool, the pop that we see, the shift that we see, does not look like the typical ACL shift that everybody's concerned of. Certainly as the player comes in here, we do see a bit of a straight knee. We see this load come in from the outside in, and so that's going to impart a valgus load, meaning it's going to want to push the knee inward. And so this can certainly stress the ACL as well, but it doesn't look like the typical shift pop that we see with an ACL injury. And combined with just this extreme angle, if we kind of adjust our picture here a little bit, that we see down on the foot, this is very classic for that MCL high ankle sprain position. Next, we'll take a look at our biodigital anatomy tool and correlate the footage with what we see in our anatomy. But first, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video. This video is sponsored by Bombas. Hands down, Bombas are the most comfortable and best socks I've ever worn. First off, I love the variety of options they have. These nice, lightweight, really thin running socks, some taller athletic socks if you're going for more of that tube look. And then there's my favorite and my daily go-to, their ankle running socks. I absolutely love this nice little built-in arch support, a little heel guard on the back so your shoe doesn't rub, and they have a really nice seamless design that doesn't rub and dig in and irritate your toes. And their materials are second to none. For example, they've got this really nice merino wool that helps regulate temperature in any environment. Right now, new customers can get 20% off their first Bombas purchase by heading to bombas.com/BrianS. Use code BrianS at checkout for 20% off, or just scan the QR code here on the screen. They're not only designed to feel good, but they do good. With one purchased equaling one donated, Bombas has given away over 100 million clothing items to people in need. They've got a 100% happiness guarantee, so you can rest assured knowing that either you'll really love their socks and want to get more, or get your money back. And remember, one purchased equals one donated. So head to the link down in the description, code BrianS for 20% off your first purchase at Bombas. Help support others and also get some nice, comfortable, best socks on the planet for yourself. So now if we look at our biodigital anatomy tool here and we focus on first the knee, there's going to be, of course, the four main ligaments of the knee. On the inside, we're going to have the MCL, stands for medial, on the inside collateral ligament running from north to south, stabilizing that joint from those valgus forces. So if you think back to the position when Love gets his knee hit, the Philadelphia player is kind of landing on the outside, pushing that knee inward. That can certainly put tension on this MCL and cause a tear of that MCL ligament. In the front of the knee, we have the patellar tendon. The patellar tendon connects the patella, the kneecap, down to the shin. Higher up above that is going to be the quadriceps tendon. On the outside, the LCL, lateral collateral ligament, basically the opposite of the MCL. That's mainly going to get stressed or injured if you have an opposite varus stress, say if somebody lands on the inside of the knee and pushes outward. But in this case, we had a valgus stress coming in, potentially stressing, putting some tension on that MCL and causing an MCL injury. Now the ACL sits deeper inside the knee. So if we hide all these different structures and peek down on the inside of the joint, that's where we're going to see the ACL. The ACL prevents that tibia from going forward relative to the femur. There's usually some degree of shift and pivot that we see in the ACL tearing, where we'll actually see that tibia shift forward when it's torn and then pop back abruptly into place. So in this position, right, we've got that valgus load from the player coming in. We also have a player up top pushing him the other way, so two forces torquing across that knee. And again, when the ACL tears, we typically see the tibia, the shin, pop forward and then backwards. And so if anything, the skin contours, the outlines are going to get narrower and then go out. And in this case, we actually see it almost looks like everything goes sideways and then comes back rather than front to back. It also happens sooner than I would think for the ACL to have shifted. If it was the ACL, I would have expected us to see that shift maybe more down at this time rather than right away higher up. And so again, the fact that we see everything in that position and then here go outward, to me is more suggestive of a shift from something like an MCL as opposed to that dreaded ACL. But the fact that we see a shift, the fact that we're seeing a pop, implies that there is a moment of instability in the knee, that something has likely completely torn. Even if it's just the MCL, I would suspect a complete grade 3 MCL injury. There's some other ligaments that are smaller that we don't necessarily talk about as much that stabilize some of that rotation of the knee as well that could be injured. But I think of our 4 major ligaments, I would put MCL number 1, ACL number 2. Not saying the ACL is impossible, just saying this looks a little bit more like an MCL position than a true ACL. We also don't see that shift back up necessarily whenever the weight is kind of released off. And so that's also one thing that makes me less concerned about the ACL compared to the MCL. And the other thing I mentioned was a high ankle sprain type of injury. So here, if we're looking at that left foot from straight on, here's the tibia, that's the shin, the fibula is the bone on the outside, and then the high ankle ligament sits here between the tibia and the fibula. When you get into these positions where the foot is dorsiflexed, meaning pulled upwards, that locks this tibiotalar joint in place. And then when you externally rotate the foot or push it out, that has a tendency to want to spread apart the tibia and the fibula, which can then stress this AITFL, high ankle sprain ligament, potentially causing a tear. And that's exactly the position that we see Love's ankle and foot in. That's going to also stress the deltoid ligament here on the inside. And so it's very common that we can see both a high ankle sprain and an MCL tear occur together because of how that mechanism with the foot being out, the knee coming in, can affect both of those structures. So overall, again, my suspicion is higher for an MCL tear than an ACL, but the fact that we saw that shift, we saw it look like something popped, to me suggests that this is a high-grade injury. If we're talking about a complete MCL tear, likely doesn't need a surgery, but still can be 4 to 8 weeks potentially. So this could still be a major injury affecting this early part of the season. If the dust settles and there's a lot of ankle pain, high ankle sprains, if it's a complete full tear of that ligament, could require surgery with something like a tightrope. Hopefully though, nothing surgical for the ankle. I don't think this is like patellar tendon, quad tendon rupture, because he would not have been able to walk off the field if this was a full rupture of his quad or patellar tendon. You can walk off the field with an ACL tear or with an MCL tear, but you're not going to walk off the field with the quad or a patellar tendon injury. Another just thing lower in the differential, think about patella dislocation, but it didn't appear to be any sort of reduction of the kneecap on the field, so I'd have that lower. Hopefully we get good news. Obviously expect an MRI. Don't know if that's going to happen in Brazil or when the team flies back to the States. If it's an MCL, the knee probably won't swell up that much compared to an ACL. The knee is going to be big and swollen within a few hours, so stay tuned. That's it for the video, everybody. Thank you as always for watching. Let me know questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later.